If you've ever been to Savannah, Georgia, which if you haven't, you definitely need to come visit. It's a city that's filled with history and art, culture, some Southern charm too. Both locals and tourists, we all love our boutique shops along River Street and Broughton and Bull Street. And if you've ever been there, you'll likely notice some artsy fox-themed coffee houses that have become famous among both visitors and residents. Places like Henny Penny Cafe, the Coffee Fox, Foxy Loxy Cafe, Fox and Fig, and more have been these different eclectic, really unique places, meeting places and businesses that have been founded by this lady, Jennifer Jenkins. She has been in business quite some time. She's built up some really cool places that I've enjoyed personally, done business meetings at, and people from all along the community use it for all kinds of places because it's one of the most unique experiences that we have here in Savannah, Georgia. So now I get to talk with this serial entrepreneur, Jennifer. Welcome to Good Morning Market. How you doing?
Thank you so much. Appreciate you having me.
100%. And now I know we've gone back and forth, and I just want to know what preferences are for this conversation. And do you prefer Jennifer or do you prefer Jen?
Jen, just not Jenny.
Exactly. The next question was me. What is your least favorite version of your name? So no Jenny from the block. It's just,
right,
it's just
Jenny.
Jennifer. Okay.
Jen, yes.
Jen is good. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I love your places. I've enjoyed your businesses for a long time. By the way, when did you open up your very first location out of the ones that are open presently?
Yeah, Foxy Loxy was the first one. So that was September of 2011. Open Foxy.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. Did you ever take orders with the customers directly? Did you ever spend much time in front of the house?
Yes, I did. I started out pretty much working all roles in the front of house. I've not worked all the roles in the back of house, but started on register. I don't mind doing dishes. Float is, running pastries and food out to customers, and barista. So I taught myself and took some classes on how to be a barista. After I started Foxy, I didn't have those skills going into it. But yeah, I spent a lot of time at Foxy and at Coffee Fox, serving customers, working directly, with the team in the front of house. And I did really, really enjoy that.
I think it's cool because you get to interact with the customers in a different way. You get to understand all the diverse. There's a lot of different dynamics within a coffee house, especially the one that does what y'all do. Like y'all even have alcoholic beverages that you serve. So there's a lot of different dynamics to your places. Yeah. But I want to put this to you so you can help me. I've been drinking coffee. I was an energy drink guy for much of my early life, and I got switched to the coffee train at the behest of my wife about 7 or 8 years ago. Good. And I still to this day go into your places or any coffee house, and I'm still that guy who's just overwhelmed with all the choices and like what I can't tell you what an Americano is. Like there's a bunch of stuff I still haven't figured out. So I want to play a little game with you just to open up. And Good Morning Market, I feel like this goes really with the theme of the podcast. A lot of folks are probably drinking their morning coffee right now while they're listening. I'm going to give you a coffee order, and you tell me what you think the purchaser might be like. So you just hear the order, you fill the order, you run it out to the customer. And it's all fun and games, folks. Don't clutch your pearls on us. I'm just having fun here. So if you hear the order pour over, and if someone doesn't understand it, maybe you can just quickly explain what that is, and then like what kind of customers tend to want pour overs.
Sure. So a pour over is going to be, you're going to hand pour the water over ground coffee, fresh ground coffee, and there's all manner of different filters and shapes and all of this for pour overs, but it is like a very cared for cup of coffee. And so, I mean, it's in a way trying to replace just your drip coffee, which is for a lot of people is kind of I don't want to say entry level, but what most people think of when they think of a cup
foundational level coffee.
Right. Yeah. That's it. We call it batch brew or drip coffee. So the pour over is a more cared for cup. So you're measuring out the beans exactly just for that one cup. You're grinding the coffee right then for that one cup, and then you're pouring it to bloom, and then pouring it the rest of the way. You're timing it. You're weighing it. Depending on, which type of pour over you go for, the majority of them are going to be lighter bodied than a batch brewed coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a way of really pulling out the flavors of the coffee if you want to really experience the floral notes of the coffee or the berry notes of a coffee. I know a lot of people like the chocolate and nutty, but you can kind of get that with some of the other brew methods. But so yeah, someone who orders a pour over, they could be kind of new to specialty coffee and just be confused by it and order it, or just be experimental and curious. I think
I would guess the coffee connoisseurs probably want that. And also if they're not in a hurry, right? If you're not in a hurry and you really have a particular palate for refined coffee experiences, you might be a pour over person.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay.
It's more likely it's going to be someone that really does know third wave specialty coffee, and they want that really cared for cup. And like you said, they're not in a rush. Yeah.
Okay. So an Americano, you got to first of all just explain an Americano, but then we can get into who's ordering these Americanos.
Sure. Americano is going to be 2 shots of espresso that is poured directly over hot water. So it's a way of, it's called Americano. I don't have all the history
right.
But in Italy they figured out these Americans wanted more water in their espresso.
Oh, they don't want it as concentrated. Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of where it comes from, but then it really took off for all manner of people. So yeah, it's kind of watered down espresso, but you're able to get, espresso is a very unique brew method where you're brewing under pressure, and you're going to get a lot of different flavor profiles from that versus a drip batch brew coffee, which is just relying on gravity. And so it's a way of kind of having a full cup of coffee that you can sip on, but being able to get the flavor profiles that you can specifically out of espresso. So
now the next one,
I was going to say, that's still going to be someone that kind of knows specialty coffee and wants to have that coffee not drowned in sugar or cream, and they really want to taste the coffee straight up. So that's still going to be kind of a coffee connoisseur, I think.
Okay, I got you. I've had one of these in my life. It didn't go over well. Maybe I just need to acclimate my palate to matcha. But the matcha latte, who's out there ordering matcha lattes? Is it a health thing? Is it for the healthy people? I don't understand.
I think I know the more traditional coffee drinks and people associated with that. And I think I'm still trying to make sense of matcha because it has very quickly become one of our top sellers. And when we first opened Foxy and Coffee Fox, we didn't even have matcha. I had to sort of be a little convinced, that it wasn't gimmicky, that it was something that people genuinely wanted and enjoyed, and that we could find a good version of it that's not sugary and not cared for beverage. And so I have kind of turned the corner on matcha. I think matcha to me is a little bit similar, like the people that are going to be interested in matcha to me is kind of like people that are interested in chai lattes. Like they want to come, they want to have the coffee shop experience. They're looking for a beverage that they can enjoy if they don't really, really love coffee or don't want that level of caffeine hit. So I think it's for people, maybe it's people who do love coffee in the morning, but they want something that's again not as heavy caffeine wise in the afternoon. So I think it really runs the gamut of the people that are drawn to it. But I lean more towards people who are like, I want to hang out in coffee shop, I want this ritual, I want this experience, but I don't love coffee. What do I do?
Exactly. That makes sense. Actually, that's pretty logical. This drink of choice needs no introduction, and it is October, so you knew I had to ask about it. The pumpkin spice latte, hot or cold. A bajillion dollars worth of ads for it around America. Tell me about that PSL customer.
Oh, so I mean, we have meetings over pumpkin spice latte. Like I hate it. Being a independently owned coffee shop where I often try to rail against the Bugs menu.
I'm gonna be a contrarian, right?
Yes. And so, I mean, still at Foxy, we don't do anything like this year is like the first year that I've finally buckled a little bit to some of the teams and the managers. They're like, can we have something that's pumpkin spice latte adjacent?
Right.
Something that's just called that,
the rebel friend who's secretly like in the clique, but it looks more edgy. Yeah. But here's the thing. I like full spice. Like so cinnamon, allspice,
Yes.
nutmeg, clove. Like I like to use those for all kinds of dessert cooking. So I'm like
Right.
I understand the draw to it. And really it's not even like
Mhm.
pumpkin spice. It's just fall spice, right? Cuz
Yeah.
are you someone out there really putting like pumpkin extract or something in their
Right.
drinks? Most of the time it's just a fall spice.
Yeah.
You want dessert in a cup, right?
So yeah, I just kind of I rail against it, and I really struggle as an owner of like, when am I willing to, budge some on this and please the people, what
Mhm.
they want and what
Mhm.
they're asking for. And I still struggle with it to this day.
Mhm.
So I guess that's more of the story of me and pumpkin spice latte and not thinking of the customers that would be wanting it. But I feel like a customer that's going to want a pumpkin spice latte is similar to a customer that likes our horchata latte. And
Oh,
that's someone that they're not ready to have straight up espresso. They're not ready. And they also may not know because of going to other, I hate to like keep bringing up the Starbucks of it all,
yeah.
but
Mhm.
you know, if you're used to going to places that aren't third wave or especially coffee shops, then a lot of times the beans are not really responsibly sourced. They're not
Mhm.
um, roasted in a nuanced way. They're
Mhm.
like roasted way past.
Yep.
You know, they'll almost burn it in a way to make
Exactly.
sure that the coffee just tastes the same no matter where it's from.
That's what I call French roast. It's just this fancy word for they burn the beans.
Right, right. And that is a way to just get that coffee to taste consistent.
Yeah,
They've
yeah.
got rid of all the nuance.
Right.
But what I think of, people that want syrups or pumpkin spice latte or horchata latte is that they haven't had an experience yet with espresso or with coffee to know that if it's handled really, if it's sourced really well, if it's roasted well, and if it's prepared well by a barista and actually doesn't have like a ton of bitterness, it can have a really great, well-rounded, chocolatey, nutty, if you like
Mhm.
that, or floral or berry. It can have all these really beautiful flavors if it's prepared well.
Mhm.
And then you realize you don't have to have as much sugar and milk.
Yep.
Like I think a lot of people get in the habit or they know coffee or espresso as something that has to, they're like, I like the feeling and the wakeness that I get from this drink, but I don't want to
Yeah.
have to taste that.
Right.
So I want to drown it out, with sugar and cream.
So I actually had an experience. I went to Greece and then Turkey last year, and so I got to have the Greek style, Turkish style coffee,
Cool.
and it was different. But I really
Mhm.
tried to like fully immerse myself in it. And of course, like they don't like strain out the stuff at the bottom, so you
Mhm.
got like the sludge. You got to be
Yeah.
careful not to drink at the bottom of your coffee. But it's like a very rich, refined
Yeah.
experience. And I did try to respect it. Was like, okay, I'm not going to be dousing this with milk and sugar and or
Yeah.
syrup, and I like actually want to appreciate the richness of it. And it was really
Mhm.
cool to be able to experience that when you're not drowning it with syrups and cream and all that good stuff.
Yeah, there's so much to experience when it's allowed to show itself.
Right.
Coffee
So
itself.
the final one, because you mentioned the horchata latte. So
Yeah.
the Mexican mocha and the horchata latte are probably my favorites at because I like those Mexican flavors. I like horchata, period,
Mhm.
at Foxy Loxy. But I'll go ahead and we'll finish with something that most Americans or maybe we're not courageous enough to drink it all the time. But the black drip. Who's the black drip customer that you keep on seeing?
Oh, the black drip customer is I feel like they're a dwindling breed.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I really feel like there's so many options now
True.
that, and when I look at the sales for drip coffee, it's just yeah, it's kind of going by the wayside. I think of people that are drip coffee as more. I guess what I pay attention to about them is more their their pacing and their ritual aspect about it, that they're the ones that they want something gradual that they can sip on for a long period of time
Hmm.
and get a refill.
Right.
Like it's
Right.
more about the timing and not wanting to overdose themselves with espresso
Hmm.
and cold brew. Like those are very, very
Yeah.
caffeinated. Your drip coffee
Yes.
is a little gentler. And
Yep.
so it allows someone to just sip on that for a longer period of time and then get a refill and fill their afternoon then. So I noticed the people that do that, they're the people that are hanging out for a long time.
Hmm.
They're working on the computer or reading a book or something like that. That's the drip coffee person that I know of.
Yep, that's me. And then you know what? I don't make it black enough like I should, but I have been trying to
Mhm.
get like better qualities and responsibly sourced
Mhm.
coffee beans,
Yeah.
which really help make the classic old fashioned coffee experience that much better. And you don't need to
Yeah.
drown it or mask it with all these different sweeteners and whatnot. So speaking of the roasting process and coffee,
Yeah.
you've been in business with these different places. I mentioned the Coffee Fox, Fox and
Mhm.
Fig, Foxy Loxy Cafe, Henny Penny Cafe. You even have an event venue, the
Mhm.
Gingerbread House, which is located next to Foxy Loxy Cafe. But now you've gone into roasting. You
Mhm.
actually have a new company, your newest company that you've launched, Coffee Fox Roasting Co.
Mhm.
Um, why do you keep on starting these businesses? Like, what got you like, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur? And so I guess that's a
Yeah.
two-part question. What
Mhm.
drove you to want to be, running your own business? And then what has kept you opening up these different concepts and businesses?
Sure. It's for sure evolved over time, so like initially with Foxy and Coffee Fox, I was looking for a new career path.
Hmm.
I was teaching printmaking at SCAD, and I have a
Hmm.
master's of fine art from SCAD,
Hmm.
and I needed a job path that wasn't through academia because it didn't quite fit.
Yeah.
And I always remember, a handful of places that I had worked. I had worked in biotech a bit in the past, and then worked into academia. Something always bugged me to not be at the table where decisions were being made.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that bugs all people or if that's something entrepreneurs, eventually are like, I don't, like to be downstream from
Hmm.
decisions being made, even
Hmm.
if they're great. Or if
Hmm.
it was fascinating and interesting to me. I want to be at the table
Hmm.
where you're talking out and trying to make decisions and figuring out how to pivot. I wanted that freedom. Um, so that was kind of some initial, drive to want to have my own businesses. And choosing them to be coffee shops, I feel like I spent um, most of my life. I was a Navy brat and moving around, a Navy brat and an only
Hmm.
child,
Hmm.
moving around every 2 to 3 years. I found comfort and home and connection in coffee shops wherever we moved.
Yeah.
And so when it came to trying to decide if I was going to start a business, what business would it be? And I really thought through it. I was like, I feel like I've studied coffee shops and the
Hmm.
social interaction and these spaces and
Hmm.
how the spaces feel. And I feel like in the end, I've studied that all my life and
Hmm.
quite, I wasn't taking notes for a purpose, but
Right.
I really spent a lot of time paying attention to that and what works and what doesn't work, what felt good, what didn't feel good of spaces. So I think that's what led me to coffee shop and wanting to start my own businesses. Initially, it was just to start one coffee shop. I had no plans of doing many locations.
Right. Right.
And each step, um, the Coffee Fox, that step was just like a really great opportunity falling in my lap. I was like, well, I should do that. I should give that a
Hmm.
try. I'm
Hmm.
curious. Let's do that. I wasn't looking for it, but a great opportunity fell in my lap. And then, Henny Penny and Fig, both of those were, you know, really supporting a drive and an interest of managers that I had at that time.
Hmm.
And Henny Penny in particular was solving a problem.
Hmm.
So really, I feel like since Foxy and Coffee Fox, most of what I've done since then is solving a problem that I'm coming across, and as we were scaling, as we were
Okay.
getting busier, and I was able
Okay.
to solve a problem. So Henny Penny was solving the problem of the bakery team not being able to bake everything overnight in Foxy's kitchen.
Hmm.
They needed their own kitchen.
Hmm.
Um, so that was the drive to find that location,
Okay.
and then really needed to have something be unique enough about that because we just happened to find a building on the same street as Foxy. So
Okay.
that's where the parent tribe and the art classes and everything, we needed to be different enough from Foxy to be able to drive enough traffic in
Hmm.
there. But a lot of it was really about getting a bakery team their home base. And And then the Coffee Fox Roasting Co., that location out there, we needed, all the cafes as a group needed a warehouse. So first we just went out there and that was a warehouse for us, because all of our cafes are in like old tiny buildings in a way.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that the buildings themselves are not tiny, but they're chopped up into tiny spaces and closets are small.
Yeah.
And so we needed storage space. So we started with warehouse. And then what we needed was a place to train our baristas where they weren't facing high volume business. And so all of our cafes had high volume business, so you couldn't train a barista in that environment.
Wow.
So we built a little cafe in that warehouse to solve that problem. And then the roasting part of it, I guess in a way that harkened back to my need and want to be at the table to make decisions myself and not be downstream from other people's decisions. So we had worked with Philip at Perk from the very beginning, and Philip and I, both of our businesses grew, big quickly, it felt like, and still I talked to Philip, love Philip, but it just felt like it was time for us to be able to start to venture into, I want to decide what beans we bring in. I want to decide what farms we support. I want that opportunity to establish those relationships and learn that area of it, because it's so important. So yeah, so much of that has been about, okay, what problem do we need to solve next? What would make all of this better or more sustainable and allow us to be as big or as busy as we are, but have it be more efficient and organized and excellent. This is like what each step was trying to do.
That's not the answer I was expecting, because when I think of like restaurant groups or food service, I would think that you'd go one of two directions. Either you just open up more Coffee Foxes or more Foxy Loxy cafes just to scale up the same experience, the same concept, or like some of these, and we have some great restaurant groups in the Savannah area, like restaurant groups opening up this concept and this concept. I'm going to do Italian here, and I'm going to do Asian fusion there, and I'm going to do American diner here. Yeah. And it's interesting that, all the subsequent concepts were not just, hey, I came up with a new concept. It was actually to solve a problem that presented itself as these businesses started to mature and you started to scale, and you just had unique needs. And so it happened to turn into right time, right place, where they became their own entities, but they were really entities that were solving specific problems from the previous entities. That's a really cool evolution approach versus what I'm used to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me ask you this. Well, we talked a little bit before the interview, and something that you said really stuck with me. Finding personality in your venues, and like I could tell that it's important to you, and it obviously makes sense once you said it, because because each of these places I've been to, I think nearly every one of them, if I think there's only maybe one that I've not been to, I can see the personality. It just shows through. Like, it's not just like, okay, I want to have a good coffee house, or I want to have a boutique coffee house. Like, these are unique places that people just keep wanting to go to, because it's like a person. Like, they have their own little wrinkles and nuances. Why do you take such care in making your venues have unique personalities and character? I mean, I don't know if it makes a difference in your opinion, or what you see the fruit of that, but you obviously see it as being very important.
Yeah, I would say it's close to my why. I think if I could spend all of my time caring for the environment that the employees are in and the community and the customers are in, if I could spend all my time focused on that and tweaking that and making that better, and I would just be in love with how I get to spend my time. And that is what I work towards over time, is to hand off aspects of operations and HR and finance and stuff gradually over time, handing it off, looking to find a way to hand it off responsibly, so that I can lean into the creating spaces, community spaces. I just like, my favorite thing, or that someone ever says, is when they come into the courtyard at Foxy, and if they're talking to me, they're like, there's just something about this space, it's so peaceful. There's something, I don't know, I can't put my finger on it. I just love being here.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's that unspoken connection and peacefulness and a space for untimed, unscheduled social interaction
Yeah.
that I'm so driven by, and I just enjoy it so much. So I could never imagine doing this and not putting a lot of time and effort into that. And the times that I am most stressed is if operations wise we're bogged down and I'm tackling some stuff that I almost feel like I'm not able to attend to the spaces, and they and other people may not notice it, but I'll notice of like, I feel like this has not been attended to. I feel like this has not been cared for enough right now. And that's more by me, like not a judgment of the team or anything, but me being able to have that time to tweak it. So yeah, and it was, I know one of the questions becomes, going into COVID, but that was the time that made that even clearer to me, what I'm driven by and what's important to me, because all of that aspect got shut down. And we were then left with a transaction. And that's all it was. It's like, here's this product and you give us this money. We're not going to breathe on you. You don't breathe on us. And we need you to exit the premises. You know what I mean? And it was very clear to me that it's like, wow, this is so far from what I'm driven by, is having this transaction of exchanging goods for money. That is really just a financial engine to maintain a gathering space. It's the way I think of it.
No, and a couple things that I picked up on, and I'm not an artisan like you. I don't have those same gifts, but like one thing I think a lot of my audience was hearing it too is something when you talk about our with amongst ourselves as other kind of business owners and leaders, is you can't constantly be working in the business. You have to take time to work on the business from the outside. And so yes, you've been an operator, everything from doing the dishes to launching new concepts, but the more that you can strategically hand off more of the day-to-day stuff, then you can continue to nurture these different living creatures and continue to keep them fresh, but also true to their history and what they are in terms of personality and character and experience. Because once again, like I'm not going to Foxy Loxy to go grab a cup of coffee. I'm not, I can get that from anywhere. I'm going to Foxy Loxy to have an experience. And that doesn't just happen, nor do you just set up the template. And because it used to be really awesome means it will perpetually be awesome. So I love the time and care that you as a entrepreneur still take to work on your businesses, work on these places to make sure that these meeting spaces retain what makes them awesome with which to start. You did go into COVID. And so obviously I think everybody would be curious about how any restaurant or coffee place, anybody who's in food and beverage or hospitality survived COVID. I mean, I know there were things that were done to try to keep companies afloat, but regardless, I mean, you're already talking about the very nature of your line of businesses, food and beverage, restaurant style, the margins, the volume that you have to move. I remember one of the first things that was explained to me, I remember during the spring of 2020, when we were talking about what we were going to do with just shutting down large parts of the national economy, was explaining on an average coffee place, including a big chain like a Starbucks. You're open 30 days. You make the profit that you actually get to take home just because of the amount of volume and the margin you get per product moved. You make it in like a couple days out of the hole. Like, so you work, you're in the hole. And then the last couple of days or whatnot, what was explained to me is when you finally actually make the money, you actually get in the black or you get in the green. That must have been an absolute, crazy, hectic time. Could you just talk to me a little bit about COVID and then the fallout? I mean, obviously it's not just places being shut down. Then you have labor craziness to get folks here, people moving. Still to this day, as we speak, I speak on the podcast, we have such a really low, we've had like a low 2% unemployment rate for like, I feel like 2 years now. So anyways, loaded question, but in any way you want to share the COVID experience and getting out of that, what was that experience like?
There've been so many phases of it, the very beginning, which just felt like, that very intense shutdown, feeling like the whole thing is just falling off a cliff, and just looking at the bank account of like, we've got maybe 2 payrolls of money if we don't have any way of making revenue and we have no solution, you know? And then, you know, pretty quickly, and I do have to give them credit, whether it's the, you know, Georgia Department of Labor, the federal government, like relief did come just in time, you know? But it just the amount of admin work to get partial unemployment for every single person working that we had to file weekly for God, like I feel like over a year, and then filling out and navigating and understanding PPP, how to get it, how to use it properly. And then there was Restaurant Revival Fund. So like, thank goodness there were these relief programs, but it was also very nerve wracking because it was all done so quickly and the information about it was very confusing. And I wanted to be careful about accepting any money that I knew that it was okay to accept it, that I knew I had the right way to use it. Trying to get all that information when somebody the banks didn't know, like different advisors that I'd reach out to. I mean, it just felt like the Wild West. It was just so nerve-wracking. So like, yeah, just the back end of trying to make sure there was money in the bank accounts to pay rent and pay employees and pay lawyers, you know? And then the like trying to keep any bit of revenue stream going and pivoting to delivery. And I remember like City of Savannah allowed alcohol to be on deliveries, you know. I remember this one lady, I've never met her, but she would order 9 bottles of wine and 1 churro muffin, you know, like, and she would do it to be delivered. Do it like once a week. And I was like,
God bless her. That kept things going, right?
This person, like this was the pandemic, great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there was just a lot of phases. I feel like early on it was really intense and really scary, but it also felt like all of us that worked at the cafes, there was a lot of, we were in it together. There was a lot of togetherness around the struggle. And I don't know when, I feel like it coincided with the same time in our country where then everybody got in their different camps of ideas about what's right or wrong or how to go about this. And that existed in our culture in addition to the broader culture. So that phase of it felt very challenging to keep a team together working towards the same goal. And then I don't know, I guess there was kind of some peaceful time there of like, okay, we have relief funds. You know, we don't have enough revenue to cover payroll, but that's okay because we have these relief funds. But it gets you in a habit as a manager or as an owner, as a director of operations, it gets you in a habit of running businesses that are not financially sound. Like your percentages are not in line, but it's okay for now, question mark. And so doing that, trying to rebuild the revenue and trying to figure out, okay, well, when is the revenue coming back? And then that next phase was, okay, revenue's back to what it was, but now our costs are way higher than we've ever experienced. So now what do we do with that? You know? And so, I mean, it has just been a constant, it's felt like we've gone through 3 or 4 phases of rebuilding the cafes since it shut down. And I think it has taken a lot of endurance from me and my key people that have been with me through all of it. It's taken a lot of endurance, and I'm so grateful for my key people, especially Julie. She's my director of operations, and she's been with me for 7 years. And every large thing, admin wise, that we had to tackle, and team wise, and just everything. But like, I remember telling her, and I've told people, if I didn't have her or someone in that role, and it was, if I was smaller going into COVID and it was just me, the owner, needing to fill out all this paperwork, navigate all these government programs, do all of that, I know absolutely there was just not enough hours in the day. And I thought of other people that just had 1 or 2 locations and they're just an owner and they're kind of their own GM. Trying to do that, I don't think I could have done it. So I'm grateful that I was large enough to have a key role like that so that she could be there, so we could divvy up this major workload of navigating COVID together, you know? And so now the more recent phase is, it felt like dropping off a different cliff of, okay, relief funds are done.
Mhm.
Now we have to, the first time in years, stand on our own again.
Yep.
And our costs and our everything,
Yep.
we have to find a way to get it in line again.
Yep.
And so that is the phase that we're in right now. And I've never monitored cost of goods or labor more in my entire life. You know, I never had to.
Mhm.
But I have to monitor every vendor truck. I have to monitor every schedule written, you
Yep.
know? So we're, and I can tell that is the right thing to do right now. And we're going to get through it, but oh my God. And I know I'm not alone. I know everybody's been through it in food and beverage, but, and absolutely, like the positive side of it is I am coming out of it so much more educated, and I feel like there's so much more I have confidence in that I could help our organization and our team survive by having gone through all these phases of COVID.
Yep.
I'm not as intimidated by the what ifs and what if this happens, or what if a hurricane comes by close? How do we, you know, we've been through freaking COVID, and
Yep. It's true.
and so there is that gift of it, of like, okay, I've made it through it and I've learned a lot, and we're gonna be okay, you know.
Knock on wood. If you can get through this, you can get through anything. And
Right?
I want to tell you, and all of the, you know, the great local places that are in hospitality, food and service, restaurant. I mean, I started my business during COVID, and there's challenges, you know, for that. But like, for how much impact you'll have in the nature of your business and how many people you employed to be able to tackle the health aspects of a global pandemic, the economic shutdown, the cultural and civil unrest and divide, employment, labor shifts, and obviously pernicious inflation, the greatest inflationary crisis we've had since the late 70s, early 80s. Just so much to tackle. And like you said, you really had to reinvent the operations in so many respects to now live in the quote unquote new normal and the new era post COVID. I mean, it really is something to behold. So I want to ask you some more questions, pivoting the conversations away from the meeting places and more towards the new roasting company in just 1 second. First, let's hear a quick message from today's episode sponsor, Soul Insights.
This episode is sponsored by Soul Insights. Is your business looking to hit the next level of growth? For many businesses, they know they need to spend more on marketing, but don't want to simply shoot in the dark. They want a smart, data-driven path to solid growth. If this is you, then Soul Insights can help you to identify, attract, and retain ideal customers. Soul Insights is a strategic marketing agency which helps small and mid-sized businesses understand their best customers, who they are, their shopping behavior, and acquire new best customers based on that data. Oh, and it's all measured and tracked to ensure you get more profit bang for your marketing buck. Head to soulinsights.com right now and take the 90-second quiz to find your path to the next level.
I do want to get and talk about the coffee roasting new business. And you actually explained kind of the reason, solving problems, and how Coffee Fox roasting came to be. Like you said, you know, Perk had really grown up and scaled out. You'd really grown up and scaled out. You wanted more direct control over the process because there's a lot of things that goes into the actual coffee that y'all source for your different venues. So, I mean, I understand, and I feel like now why you decided to just take that on yourself. Maybe you could then tell me a little bit more forward pointing on where do you think this fits for you moving forward? Do you have like some vision you'd be willing to share? I'm not sure if it's just, it is there to serve your existing places, or if you have other vision where you see it having a really good impact on its own. So I'm just curious about that.
I think at this stage, you know, the other component of it that when I decided to take on roasting is that there's kind of this new technology. It's called Bellwether is the company. And so they'll set you up with a roaster, but they have a master roaster or a whole team of master roasters in San Francisco that, you know, they are sourcing coffee. They're doing the master roasting and figuring out the roasting profiles, and they can upload that on our roaster. Basically, anybody who has a Bellwether roaster, then they'll upload the roast profiles. And so then we purchase our coffee through Bellwether, the Bellwether marketplace, because and what's promised in that is that it is responsibly sourced, the full, you know, supply chain and everybody involved in it is cared for and paid well. Like,
Okay.
and that's a lot of what specialty coffee, the term specialty coffee, that's part of what that's representing is caring about the supply chain and the people working along that all the way back to the farm. So, what Bellwether allows is someone like me, where I have experience as an operator of cafes. I have experience creating spaces. I've taught myself how to be a barista, but I have not studied under a roaster. I'm not a master roaster, and I don't have a master roaster on staff yet. And so Bellwether allows someone like me to embark on roasting without those skills yet, but allows me over time to grow those skills if I want to. And so the phase that we're in right now is we rely on Bellwether's knowledge. But what they allow us to do also is, like, there's one farm that I've been to, we call it origin trips in specialty coffee. So the one origin trip I've been on is to Selva Negra, Nicaragua. This was about 9 years ago. So it's a while ago. But, going there, meeting the lady who owns the farm, just experiencing that. And then, when we were getting to leave, all of us coffee professionals that were on this trip asked, like, what can we do to support what y'all do? We love everything. And they're like, buy our coffee. That's what helps us the most.
Right.
And so I've been very passionate about supporting that farm, from being able to go there and have a actual relationship with them. And so Bellwether was a step that would allow me to bring in Selva Negra. So now I'm able to buy their coffee, but the master roaster at Bellwether did the profile roast, sent us samples so we could try it, and uploaded that profile on our system.
Very nice.
So that's where we're at right now. And yeah, most of it is to then bring the coffees in that we want and to roast there and kind of sell it to ourselves to, and we, deliver baked goods from Henny and roasted beans from Coffee Fox Roasting Co. weekly, multiple times a week. And so we have to get that really, really stable and going really well before we really want to branch out and be selling beyond ourselves. The one account that we have that is outside of the cafes is I call her Mama K, at Bodega. So they have our Coffee Fox Roasting Co. coffee there, and they serve that. So that's the one account where we've branched out. But I'm a little torn whether I want to try to branch out further beyond our cafes with the current system of relying on the master roasters at Bellwether, or if I want to really go down the path, because what the Bellwether roaster allows you to do, you can completely disregard the Bellwether marketplace if you wanted to, and go source your own coffee directly, and you can put on your own roast profiles if you have that knowledge. So it's a technology that allows you to grow.
Makes sense.
So it really is hard for me to determine, should we really invest the time and energy into developing a master roaster so that we are going on more origin trips, we're finding beans ourselves that we're bringing in, and we're figuring out the roast profiles and then really push that. Or, we know we're getting really great coffee from Bellwether, and we have the Selva Negra farm that we're supporting. Do we branch out at the current skill set that we have? So I would say there's a lot of discussions behind the scenes on that, trying to figure that out. I think right now, the next step that we absolutely can do and want to do, and I'm working on creating a Shopify account, because we do have an online store.
Yes.
Not on Shopify. And I think if we switch to Shopify, that's going to more seamlessly integrate with Instagram and give us more ways of getting that store visible to people.
Yeah.
So I think right now I'd like to just focus on direct to consumer sales of our 12-ounce coffee. And being able to do more sales of that, I'm wanting that money to come in to support the warehouse and the barista training program that we have in that space.
Okay. Yes.
And so once I can cross that, then maybe I'd look further. But right now, it's all about how can we grow that business of selling what we roast directly to our customer beyond just on the shelves of cafes.
Right. But like you said, like I think that ultimately what you're getting to is you're opening up a new world that obviously is a new world to learn, but there's a lot of different pathways and purposes and possibilities involved in that now opens up just a whole new continent from what you've been doing previously. Let me follow up with this is because like you talked about Julie, you've talked about your team, you talk about your different businesses and the discussions that go on in directions of your organizations. You're pretty scaled up. What wisdom have you gained over the years when you're trying to figure out do it yourself, what you've done, hire or outsource? How does that go? Because like obviously you have these complex, big moving machines and there's lots of different ones with different needs. And so I feel like with most of us entrepreneurs, there's always the three options. I can do it myself. I can bring someone on the team to do it part-time or full-time, or I can outsource it, like what you're doing with Bellwether in some respects right now. So how does that decision process work from your experience?
Oof. I'd say I'm still deep in learning in that path,
Probably the best answer, right? Who truly knows exactly when to do that, right?
And I try to make the right decisions. I think that, again, when I think of the positive sides of COVID, of helping COVID clarify for me the things that I'm very passionate about and that I think I'm very good at. I don't think I had as much clarity about that before COVID. So I think I needed to gain that, in a way, I think I want my job description to be in and around brand management, which also in my mind involves maintaining the spaces and that customer experience, right? So if I think of me more as the brand manager where, I am outsourcing graphic design and photography and help with social media, but I want that all very close at hand and be collaborative and involved in overseeing that, as well as maintaining the look of the spaces and all that. Like that's what I want to be spending my time and having my hands in, that I don't think I could ever really
so you get to have that self-awareness over time over where you really shine and really what drives your energy and where you feel like you're best fit for the organization and the team. So then comes the other discussion, which is like, do I have someone from the outside help, or do I bring in someone to the team? And I know that in a lot of respects, especially with the nature of your business, you need someone like actually on the team to serve your customers.
I think also what I've learned in different times of trying to outsource different things, like I don't know if it's having not found the right person, or did I not hand it off in a thorough enough way, or what caused it to not really hit the mark. I'm definitely in a phase here of not wanting to overwhelm my plate and micromanage, but I do want pretty much everything to be people in the organization, very immersed in what we do. And it's very hard anytime I try to outsource something, they just, like you said, like all of these locations are different. I didn't just do 10 copies of Coffee Fox. That would have been financially really, really smart, right? That's not what I did because it's not interesting to me. But I think that's where I find outsourcing not really working for me, because each location is so unique and different.
Right.
That makes it very hard to outsource anything. Like I think I see people very integrated and immersed in our culture, and them know me really well and me know them really well, for them to really hit the mark and bring something to the table that makes sense for us. So I'm not, maybe I'll find something down the road that makes sense to outsource, but for the most part, I see it all under our own roof is what works the best.
And like I said, based off the nature of your venues and how hyper local and hyper unique they are, it's not built for the same reasons that other ones would be built, which would create, other needs that could be fulfilled by someone who's not eating, living, breathing that specific character all the time.
Right.
So I would like to ask you a bunch of follow-up questions, but I'll settle for this one. And because I think this has been a really great conversation. Thank you once again, Jen, for joining me this morning. When it comes to entrepreneurship, because you've already shown a little bit that you're a rebel. So I think this will be an interesting question. But let me ask first: when it comes to being an entrepreneurship, what is the number one way in which you're more of a conventionalist and you're more of the by the book, standard entrepreneur?
I know. I saw this question. I was really thinking. I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I think, and some of this is kind of this new phase of, oh my gosh, relief funds are gone and we have to stand on our own again.
Mhm.
I think that I've gone into this new phase that is more conventionalist of
Mhm.
really, really studying my numbers and
Mhm.
really paying attention to my P&Ls.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know. I was just lucky in a way that I had to pay attention to it before COVID, but I don't know. I didn't have to super monitor it
Yeah.
before COVID.
Right.
And so now doing that, I never thought that I would be so much of a numbers person, right?
Right.
Now that feels like that's very conventional.
Yeah.
Grown-up businesswoman,
Yep.
paying attention to my P&Ls and really making sure that, you know, I realized like that's how I can really take care of my people, is to
Yep.
make sure that I'm really taking care of this business being financially sound.
Yep.
So I didn't used to be that way. Maybe I was naive, or
Mhm.
I could have called myself rebellious in the past of
Mhm.
not super paying attention to my numbers.
Right.
And that I've shifted to grown-up land here, and that I'm really, really having to pay
Yep.
attention to my numbers and really dial that in. So
Yeah, I love being unorthodox, but what I hear time and time again is, you know, be unorthodox, be a maverick, but you know, maybe not with accounting and finance.
right. Yes, exactly.
So I think, you know, you've hinted at it somewhat, but what do you feel like the number one way in which you are a rebel as an entrepreneur?
Hmm. I guess, you know, when I think of all the advice people over the years give me, you know, and early on, it was especially when I was a barista or was on the front register, right? That's really tricky to be in those positions, customer facing, when if they know you're the owner,
Mhm.
because then they think, oh, now I can tell her everything she should do. Now I can convince her everything off menu that I want. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm. Yeah, all your good ideas. Yeah.
But there were a lot of, you know what you should do. You know what you
Mhm.
should do. You know what you
Mhm.
should do. And a lot of the, you know what you should do, had to do with um, people pleasing.
Mhm.
You know, and to me, that translated. I didn't think that's what these people were saying, but it translated, or I would process it as lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
Let's just provide these
Right.
things that people want, whether it's syrups or more basic pastry case items, things that
Mhm.
don't align with a vision or a theme or a personality.
Yeah.
And I think if I had listened to that, and there was a whole bunch of that that wouldn't have worked. And so I did, I guess, feel kind of rebel in, like, if we're going to have anything come out of this kitchen at Foxy, it's going to be Tex-Mex. It's going to be my childhood food. It's
Mhm.
going to be tacos, you know,
Mhm.
and tamales someday. And I don't care if that makes sense with coffee or coffee house. It's what I know.
Mhm.
It's what I love.
Mhm.
And I know that if I know it and love it, I can make sure it's really, really good. I can
Yeah.
have a strong opinion about it, and I can want to eat it every single day and fuss over
Mhm.
the details and really dial it in.
Yeah.
And I would oscillate back and forth of, like, am I just being selfish and just wanting to do the things that I love?
Right.
But I really did experience that, you know, if I lean in heavy to what I really love and do it well, the people that like that too will find it and
Mhm.
will love it at that same level. And I
Mhm.
need to trust the kind of, if you build it, they will come kind of
Mhm.
aspect there,
Mhm.
versus the, okay, what does the market want? Oh, let's roll this out. Oh, this seems really hot. Let me
Mhm.
put this out there. I think this will pan out, but
Yeah.
no real personal connection to it. So I don't know if that's really rebel. I think a lot of people that do well in business do really lean into something very, um, something that they align with personally and stick with that, you know.
Mhm.
But I felt rebellious against the, you know what, you should, the shoulders, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
there.
That makes sense. And I think that even the term like commercialized almost has like undertones of like inauthentic or least common denominator or easy
Yeah.
pleaser.
Mhm,
Whereas you're basically taking the opposite approach, is
mhm,
you are just going to be authentic, and you know, the folks
mhm,
who will want to come for that unique experience will come, and
mhm.
like you said, you're willing to take the flip side of that, which is it's not going to be for everybody. You'll have a bunch
Right.
of folks who expect a certain thing from a coffee shop around the street or a restaurant, and you're
Right.
not going to fit that mold. But, it's obviously worked out thus far with the successful businesses that you built, and they've lasted through COVID, which once again, like you said, if you can get through that, you can get through pretty much anything.
Right.
And I wanted to finish up with this, which, I would encourage folks who get to come to Savannah, Georgia to come check out your places, but we
Yeah.
have listeners from far and wide. What can people do if they want to learn more about Coffee Fox Roasting?
Yeah, so we have our online store, and it's the Coffee Fox Roasting Co. So you can go
Okay.
there and see all of our, various beans that we have available and a little bit of merch. And then just the coffeefox.com, that website kind of
Mhm.
represents both the Coffee Fox on Broughton and the Coffee
Mhm.
Fox over on Louisville Road.
Okay.
So there's information there. And I think, we spend a good amount of time making sure we share information and goings-ons on Instagram and
Mhm.
Facebook, but Instagram, mostly I like the image heavy side of Instagram.
Yeah.
So I think that would be the best. And then just come visit and come experience
Mhm.
it, which matters the most.
100%.
Coffee Fox Roasting Co. I do think I haven't spent a lot of time sharing with people that is open to the public.
Oh, yeah.
So over on Louisville Road,
Mhm.
it's kind of off the beaten path. It's in a warehouse area, but it does face the road. So that location is open. Let me get these hours right. 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. You can go in there as a customer.
Mhm.
And again, we're training baristas, but there's always a certified skilled barista there for customers. And in the back, and a lot of times we do have the door open, is where all of our roasting is going on. So I recommend people come and stop in there. And that's like the one place that there's not a line.
Exactly.
There's
Yes.
not a line. So stop in there and check it out.
That's really cool. So, folks, once again, I will put the links to those websites for y'all. Definitely follow them on social media. If you're around Savannah, come check out the place on Louisville Road or any of the concepts and any of the places. And then, of course, they have the website, which I'll link if you want to get some coffee straight to your house. So, Jen, I really appreciate your time for joining Good Morning Market. It was a pleasure to be able to learn from your story and tell your story. And we should have you on again sometime. I say that seriously.